So yeah, so welcome to week 3. Do say hello. If you've been following along with the Doodle with Della challenge, each week we have a new grid, which is free to download from my website on a Monday morning. So this week is grid 3. So what it does, it introduces 4 new doodles, which I will talk you through today. And then the challenge is to combine 2 of the doodles and create your own new doodle in the square. And so you should end up with quite a wide collection of doodles to use in future doodling projects, which is what these lessons are going to be about as well. So we're going to build up over the next few weeks of how to make your own doodle masterpieces. And then also at the end of this lesson, I will be adding some more doodles to Hope, who is coming along nicely. So she's 12 by 12 inches, and hopefully once she's complete, I'll be framing her and put up on the wall in my studio, which is exciting. So I'm just going to give a couple more minutes, make sure people are joining in. They want to doodle with us today. So all you need today is a pen and some paper. If you've printed off the sheet, that's great, you can use that, but if you haven't, that's fine. You can use a notebook or any plain paper and just copy the doodles down. And then, so a pen. If you've got a drink with you, that's fab. I will be doing some pencil work today actually, so if you've got, if you can grab a pencil as well, that just comes a little bit later, but you can always go and get that after the lesson, that's not a problem. So yeah, so do say hello if you're watching, and I think we'll get started. I've got to see, hi Lena, nice to have you with us. So yes, I have been asked today whether I sell the doodling pens, these pens. So these are my pens of choice, so the Unipin ones, which I've talked about in previous lessons. So they all come in different sizes. So I've got a collection of different thicknesses of the nib. My favourite to use for most projects is 0.2. I then go up or down depending on what the doodle is. So the 0.2 pen is included in the advanced versions of my card making kits. So if you're interested in taking it a bit further, so there's like designs like this which you can buy online, and then they come with a pen if you select that option, and full instructions on how to create them yourself. And I've got a couple of other designs as well, but they're just out of reach at the moment. And a Christmas one, a Christmas bauble, which is really beautiful. So I always have great fun to doodle those. But wonderful, right, shall we make a start? So if you've got a plain bit of paper, so basically what we're going to do, I'm going to show you some tips on how to make these 4 doodles. So we'll start with this one. Also at this point is when I because I've been writing up the lesson notes on my website, so you can go through and look at those. If you're not interested, if you don't want to rewatch the video, you can read them on the website. And so I have to put a name to all of them, which is actually kind of quite difficult because it's hard. So if anyone's got any good name suggestions for any of these, I think this one will have to be checkerboard. But let's start with this one. So what I would recommend doing is you start with this loop here. Okay, so if you can see that it all builds behind one. So rotate it depending on which angle you want to be able to draw them on. So you're doing 2 loops, so like a little rainbow at any one time, and then what you need to do is try and create that loop on one side, and then on the other side across. So you're always doing them in pairs. So you're always doing those 2 lines in pairs, and then you build up. And so depending on how big your space is, will determine whether you have whole rainbows or they go off to the side. But you try. So you're sort of looking for ways, so where they join, you're looking to create the archway going over. Oh, maybe archway is a good name. So you're looking for ways to bring it across. And then sometimes, because you've got to be quite conscious of keeping that arch every time, because you can get to the point where you end up stretching one, and it ends up being quite flat. So always take stock and remember you can bring that arch back in, and then take some off to the side. So it's like you're kind of building a wall. So you kind of got that crisscross over. They're not all in a line. They're interlocked at angles. Takes a bit of practice, this one. So here he's like, I kind of got nowhere to go. I'm going to start down at the bottom and build up the platform from this side. So yeah, have a go and see where it takes you. So this is sort of doing it in a straight line. There's a variation on this one, which I might come on to today. Oh, it's going to be wonky. Which one, if I can show you? I think I did it on Hope last week. Yeah, variation of sorts. For this doodle, you do the loops, and then you go around the whole of the shape, and then you go in and in and in and in. And so similar kind of stepping up, going further and further back. Excellent. So what should we call that one? Arches. Okay, and this one's quite nice and simple. Again, if you've got a thin pen, potentially I'd do the lines in a thin pen. So like we were talking, so I'll move over. Like we were talking last week about the confidence of your pen strokes. Start with the lines, and keep them quite spaced out for this one. And confidently go from one side to the other quite quickly. That helps you get a nice straight line. And then adding in the dots. So start off with one line, space them out. So there's you can have them quite close together or quite spread out. That's totally up to you. But what's nice about this design is the layering. So imagine a brick wall. So on the next line, you're going to do the dot halfway between the two above it. So those two there, and halfway between, and then you can judge whether the dot would appear on the end. That one probably wouldn't. It's not really far enough across. And then the next one is going to be in line with the one above. There you go. So you can experiment with how big you make the dots. And then, so take your time on this one. It can get a bit confusing if you work out which line you're on and where they should go. But if you make a mistake, it's not a problem. Chances are one or two wouldn't even notice on a large doodle. Or you can go back and fill in all the others as well. Let me just show you what I mean. So I'm going to put it in pencil. So tell you if you got confused and accidentally drew a dot there and you were meant to miss it and move on to the next line. You can then add to your doodle and then add in dots to every bit. So you make the same mistake over the whole doodle, and therefore it's not a mistake. It's what you were planning on doing, and no one will be any the wiser. And then even after that, you can, if you think that's quite a grid pattern, you might want to add to that, add lines within the lines, and just keep going with it and see where the new doodle takes you. So now this one, I feel like there is a name for this because this reminds me of like like a sort of a metal outdoor staircase where the steps are got this pattern on to help you with grip. I just can't think of I had a quick look on Google to try and see what that kind of metal tread is called, and I couldn't find it. So if you've got any suggestions on what that's called, that would be fab. Oh, I've just seen, so they do take off the my comments came off my screen. Apologies, I've got them back now. So I'm a bit behind, sorry about that, guys. Sarah says, sorry I haven't got around to doing my week 3 yet. No, that's absolutely fine, Sarah. You can do it at your own pace, not a problem. I'll add it to the gallery whenever you're finished. And Lady said fish scales for this one. Ooh, I like it. Yes, that is very fish scaley, isn't it? Yes, let's call it fish scales. Awesome. So any suggestions on this metal grid? Does that make sense? Would be fab. Right, so in your mind's eye, you can imagine it's in a square grid pattern. So if you wanted to, you could draw out with pencil a rough grid of squares. I wonder if that pencil shows up on. There's a little bit of a time lag on my picture. Apologies if you can't see those pencil lines. I've deliberately done it very gently. So within each square, what you do is to draw 3 lines going that way, and then all the squares alongside it, you draw the lines the other way. And then in between those, so it's a checkerboard pattern where the lines switch from going up and down or side to side. So again, it's one. This is where we say about doodling being quite a mindful activity, because although there are some doodles that I can start and finish and not even realise I've done, there are these ones that do require you to sort of stay focused on that one task of getting it the right way around, and that's kind of like relaxes your brain in terms of you've only got one thing to think about. you're in the present moment. You're not thinking ahead or thinking about what's happened in the past. You are focused on the task in hand, which is making me quite nervous here because I'm also trying to teach a live lesson and do this doodle. And plus, I wouldn't normally draw the grid out. So although I can see this is going to look quite neat, it feels quite they feel quite far apart. So I'm going to interested to see. I'm going to do another section without the grid and see how it compares. So I think I do them closer together. Normally, and what I also do with this one is do it in one line at a time. So this is how I would fill the grid up. So that it becomes a bit more of a repetitive pattern, quite rhythmic. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I just start the next one and make sure I've got it lined up with the one above. 1, 2, 3. can occasionally end up with 4 lines or 2 lines. But if you keep going, then those little mishaps on the way you won't notice in the final thing. So the benefit of the grid system means that you're going to get a consistent finish across the whole space. I can already see I'm getting a bit smaller and tighter here, so it's probably going to drift into something a bit, you can see the start to the finish being slightly different. But I do find that process easier than drawing it with a grid. And then the checkerboard. So the checkerboard, it does take some time. So I probably won't be able to show you a very large example today. But we start off with drawing a grid. So again, drawing the straight lines. I'm going to practice what I teach. So make sure that the paper is at a good angle to your hand, that's comfortable to draw confident straight lines. It's quite difficult to do it at an odd angle. So always rotate your paper. Draw your lines in one direction and then turn the paper to draw them in the next direction. There we go. So now in a similar way you need you're colouring in every alternate square, which feels like it would be nice and simple and no bother at all. And then you're halfway through and you suddenly discover you've bumped into one that's already coloured in and shouldn't be. So a nice trick for that is, actually I'll use this pen. A nice trick for that is just to do a dot. Well, especially if you do diagonals, that's always quite easy to follow. And put a dot in all the ones that you're going to colour in. So get that sort of process out of the way first. Dun, dun, dun. And if you go wrong, you can always have a checkerboard with dots in the in the white spaces. So even that's savable. But once you've done that, it means that you're then free to grab a thicker pen and just switch off, because all you're doing is colouring in the squares with dots. And just fill in the square. Again, if you've got it quite small, it doesn't have to be that neat, because the overall effect has more impact than going over the line in one bit. Like I say, I won't be able to do the whole thing here today, but you can take your time and just go through and fill in the rest. There's also another, if you wanted a shortcut, which when I'm rushing to get something finished, another way to do it is on here is rather than colouring in, I've drawn straight lines within each square instead. So it just gives it that shading, that impact, but doesn't take as long to do. That's completely colouring. Hopefully you can see that in the picture. I think I've got a close-up of that I can show you. Yes, it's little lines filling them all up. I'll just do a couple more. There we go. Beautiful. So yeah, so once you've filled in the rest, you'll have the beautiful checkerboard. Let's have a look at. So on the grid, I'm going to have some ideas about how to combine these two. So if you haven't done the grid yet, I'm going to do one example here. I'll only do one. I won't do the others because it's very difficult to unsee something you've seen. It's difficult to then think of your own interpretation from it. So what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to take a little bit of a I'm going to say a artistic license on this one, but actually, like I say, there are no right answers or wrong answers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the arch into 3 to give it, taking the element of 3 from there. Across. And so lady, you've said, right, these comments disappear so quickly. So I've attempted to copy your doodles. My ones are very unusual. Ooh, sounds intriguing. I like unusual doodles. So once I've finished the live video, you will be able to add photos to the comments in the feed. So once I've finished, Layla, if you're happy to share, I'd love to see what doodles you've come up with while we've been on here. And then if you're watching the replay at any point, then you'll be able to add your own pictures as well. So like I say with these arches, that you can get to the point where like these ones are all of a sudden like you realise you're stretching. So you need to sort of create a new arch for you to work off. So as my sound hasn't gone, I've just got into a doodling zone, nice and relaxed. I might leave it there and finish off that last bit later on. So my next plan is I'm going to introduce. I've switched to 0.1, the finished one, and what I'm going to do, I was going to think of just doing 3 lines going this way. I'm wondering if I'll do that first, and then I'll see what it looks like having the whole area covered. So I'm just going to do 3 lines coming from the centre of each arch. Kind of not quite coming in straight line, in the same straight line, but I think that's okay. They look a bit more organic and natural. So you're getting that therapeutic of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. On the doodles, yes, I know, I like that with just leaving those rather than filling it in, I think. So yes, I will finish off that last bit after the lesson, and I'll put a picture up on the in the comments for you to see. Excellent. Wonderful. Now, what I want to talk about today is, now that we've done those doodles, so you can complete the rest of grid 3. There's no rush. I'll start grid 4 on Monday, but yeah, feel free to catch up whenever, or or go back and catch up later. That's not a problem. And then, so the next thing, so what we've been doing so far on the grids is doodling in these square shapes. This is actually, it's quite unusual. You could do a whole piece of artwork divided into squares, but quite often with doodles, you're adding the doodle to interesting shapes. And so you're then creating doodles that fit into the unusual shapes you're making. And a way to practice that is something called I call it a sample grid or a sampler. So it's like you know, in cross stitch where you test out all the different stitches on a sampler. It's like a doodle equivalent of that. So using a pencil to start off with, what I want you to do, make sure I've got this in the right space, is draw 4 dots in a square. Okay. Now, to make a nice shape, you could draw those dots together as a nice square. That's up to you. But what I like to do is do a curved line from one to the other. It doesn't matter if you miss the one, because you're going to be rubbing these out later anyway. And so this is creating your frame. Now within that we're going to fill this with doodles, and to do that we want to break it up into smaller chunks. So you might have got a feel for, after doing the grids, that this is a very large area to doodle in and actually smaller areas it is easier. So what we're going to do, so you're going to do a free flow line. You can do straight lines, you can divide this up in straight lines. What I'm going to do is loops and twists, and you just, all random, you can loop in and out like that, and you're basically just breaking up the area into smaller sections. And so when you get to, at that point, they're all quite good sizes, all quite spaced out. My only concern is this one here is quite large. And it goes all the way around, which is unusual. So what I'm going to do is look at how I can break that up. With that one. And I've done a similar thing there, haven't I? So let me just put that across there. Cool. And then one for good measure. So once you've done that in the pencil, you can then use the pens to go in and add a doodle to each section. So we might use some of the ones that we've looked at today. We can do the dots. There. And then we could do the checkerboard on this one. Okay, so now that you've got quite a few different doodles, you've probably got a few favourites that you like to do. Have a go at drawing out your own sampler and adding some of your favourite doodles. And what I think you'll find is that certain doodles lend themselves to different shapes. So that's always quite interesting to find what works. To experiment with them. So all we're doing is colouring in the checkerboard and then just take it up to the pencil line. Oh, didn't do my dots. suddenly you look at it and go, ah, got no idea which one to colour in. That one. Okay, so really you're completing all the sections within your 4 dots. You can then, I'll give it maybe half an hour just to make sure that everything's dry, and then you can rub out, you can rub out the lines around the outside, and if you want to, you can rub out all the lines in the middle, but they kind of get lost into it without too much bother. So I'd love you to have a go at that. Add them to the comments below once this video is finished. I'd love to see what you've created. I've kept this one quite small until the size of my hand, so it won't take me too long to do. But obviously you can do larger as you get more confident. So I've got an example of one I've made a while ago. It's one that used to be blue tacked to my studio wall in the old one. I haven't put it up in this one yet. But yes, this is actually on like it's on like watercolor paper card. So it's actually got the texture is quite nice, adds to it as well. And you can see my one there. There's a few different, another one I do when you come back to something like that. There's a doodle there. I'm like, I haven't done that doodle for months. I'm like, I've forgotten about that one. So again, it's good to have them. Good to have them when you're doodling to refer back to, because there's only so many doodles you can hold in your head, and it's nice to have to refresh your memory. Right, I am just one more thing to do today, which is to add some doodles to hope. Now last week I was really prepared with I had the doodles I was going to copy to hand, but I haven't got them to hand today. So what I'm going to do, so from the grid, I'm just going to find the post. So on my Facebook page, there is a post there called sorry, my voice is going, completed grids for week 3, which you can add your finished pictures to. So find it, and I'm going to take one of the doodles that you've created and include it in Hope. Ah yes, let's have a look. I remember. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. That's quite clear. So the one I'm gonna look at doing is this one with the checkerboard going through the strings. So I need lines. You know, that's how we'll start with the lines. Ooh, where should we go? Let's come down here. Oh, I can tell I'm being indecisive. Right. I spotted one I wanted to do earlier. This one here. Let me just make sure that's far enough over for you to be able to see. I have to rotate it. So what I'm going to do is this one here. So it's quite an unusual shape, but I think this will work well with it. Add the lines to start off with. Now to help me keep track, I'm just going to mark with a pencil which sections are going to have the checkerboard added. So I'm going to go for this one, and then leave 2, and this one, 1, 2, this one, 1, 2, this one, 1, 2. Okay. And then I'm going to add the checkerboard squares. So I'm going to I'm going to draw what the white squares would be. Come back, phone. It's got a bit of a funny shape. No problem. Yeah, right. That's looking quite funky as it is. Looks like the woven bracelets, that thing, doesn't it? So, and now I'm going to colour in. It's quite small. I might stick with this pen. Colour in the outer bits. I probably won't have time to do them all. Let you. I've already gone over a half hour, haven't I? Eek. I'll just finish one end. Okay, I'll do one more. And then what I'll do after this, I might leave this set up till tomorrow because I hear that the weather is getting a little bit colder and greyer tomorrow, so I might go and enjoy the rest of the day in the garden, and then come back to this tomorrow. And I'm going to set this up as a time-lapse video, and I'll do a handful of more doodles on here. So if you want to catch up with the progress, I will be posting the video during the week, and then hopefully I will have the whole process time-lapsed from start to finish, apart from the doodles I do in this lesson. Because obviously they're done now. So I've stitched the videos together. If you look closely, you can see where certain doodles, like this one and this one, just appear like magic because the time lapse is stitched together, and they weren't filmed in the same way. But wonderful. Okay, so I will come back and I'll finish off this one. But thank you ever so much for joining me, and yes, do carry on doodling, whether you're completing grid 3 or creating your own sampler. Do let me know if you have any questions or want to just show me your doodles. I'd love to see them. Please do add them to the comments. Okay, have a lovely day all. Bye bye.